Well, good day, and welcome to Steve's Kitchen, where cooking lean is supreme. And I'm your host, Mr. Weight Loss himself, Steve Edwards. Welcome to my kitchen. And today, you're tuned in to part 2 of my turkey SpaghettiOs. And it's a very lean dish. If you remember SpaghettiOs as a little kid, we're going to give you 10 times the flavor, and it's not going to be fattening. And we're time now to basically boil some water, and we're going to cook up our noodles. And so I've measured out a cup of large noodle rings, if you will. And I've got in my sink here a pot of cold water, and what we're going to do is you'd normally spice that up with some sea salt or kosher salt and some black pepper. But I'm going to show you a little trick I like to do. I like to put some red pepper flake, and I like to put some oregano as well, and just a small amount. You saw what I did there. And then we're going to put this on the stove, and we're going to wait till it reaches a boil, and then we're going to use our strainer here, and we're going to pull our noodles in there, and we'll see in I would say 5 minutes or so. And so with that, we're going to check on our soup, which has been cooking all day long, and this is really broken down quite well. Now you've got about a dozen of these little meatballs we made. See how nice that is? And you can break them up or leave them as is. I think I'm going to use my little spoon here and try to break each one in half. Be careful, you don't want to have this spurting all over. You could use a metal spoon too. I'm just using my little plastic spoon, and these are so tender that they just disintegrate when you touch it to it. Look at this. Just amazing if you can see that very well. I don't have a cameraman. See, the reason why I do these videos is I used to have 2 TV shows. The Steve's Kitchen show, which was a spin-off of the Mr. Weight Loss show that I had before. And both of these TV shows aired daily back in 2008 on Burnsville, Egan Community Television. And I was doing very well. I was at the point where whenever I went shopping, people would come up to me, usually one person each time minimum, and they would say, "You're that guy on TV, aren't you?" And I would say, "Yeah, thanks for watching. Which show did you happen to catch?" And they always said the Steve's Kitchen show. It was never the Weight Loss show, ironically. Shame for them, because they would have really benefited from watching Trim Time. That was the name of my show, Trim Time. And the beauty about cooking lean here is you're maximizing fresh ingredients except for the tomato sauce and tomatoes, and you're minimizing fat, and you're also maximizing flavor and minimizing fat as well. And so the beauty about having the meat like this is it doesn't get, when you make these little meatballs and then break them up a little bit, and again, you don't have to, you could eat those just the way they are, but me, I like it to stretch out farther, you know, and I like to have smaller pieces. So the thing is, you could put the meat in one big piece and then break it up in the pot too, but the problem with that is you get all this tiny little pieces of the turkey that, you know, get ground up, and it ends up, you know, that it just doesn't work out as good. You end up with a lot of small little granulated pieces that kind of float to the bottom, where with what I'm doing here by breaking the meatballs into 2 or sometimes 4 here with my spoon, is I'm getting this to stretch longer. Now you could sit here and add more meat as you go. What you would do is you would just cook it in a pan, spicing it the same way, but you would cover it with tin foil and add a little tomato sauce on the top. And then you could add it later, so you're always, you know, if you've got more noodles than you do meat, you've always got the option of adding more to it. And so I'm talking here because I'm trying to fill the time while the water gets up to a boil here. And we're going to boil our O-ring noodles, little cremette rings. Now you could use any brand you like, you know, whatever you but I mean, these are the only ones that I could find. You know, they're consistent. They're, you know, a brand that's been around like 100 years. So, you know, you're well familiar with it. And so as you can see here, you get these chunks like this in here. It's just gorgeous the way it looks, and it's going to taste equally as good as it looks. And so you can, another way you could take the meat, as you could just kind of smash it up against the side with the back of the spoon, you know, just. And the idea again is you're just trying to prevent all these little granulated pieces from collecting on the bottom, which, you know, is usually the case. You get too many big pieces, too many little pieces. This way, you know, you started out with 12 meatballs and you broke it up into smaller little pieces, and it works out just fine. Any technique you want to use to get the meat to where you want it. If you want little ground up pieces, put the whole thing in as is, and you just break it up with a spoon later. Again, I just made the little tiny meatballs like this so that it would sit there and be easy to cook, very tender. And if you wanted to break them up, like I did, it just spreads them out over more noodles in the long run. And so I'm hoping this thing is on high here. It's been a few minutes here. And another thing, I don't have a special pasta strainer, you know, where it's fully round and it dips right into the pot, but certainly one like this will work, you know, because I'm not overloading it with, like, you know, 2 cups or 3 cups of noodles. I'm doing 1 cup of noodles. Now, you may need to do more. You know, you might want to do 2 rounds of noodles. You know, it just depends on how far you're going to stretch this thing. Do you want to have 4 to 6 servings? Do you want to have maybe 8 to 10? It's all in how much noodles and sauce you put in it. You know, because the pound of ground turkey, if you granulated it in there, just put 1 big piece, that would make up to 8, 10 servings. If you do it the way I'm doing it and demonstrate it to you, it's going to make 4 to 6 wonderful servings. And it really matters as to how you want to stretch your dollar and stretch out the dish with yourself, family, friends, what have you. And so I'm not trying to cut corners or trying to work on a budget here. I think 4 to 6 servings out of this, it's going to be like huge servings, which I'll demonstrate to you. I'll show you how nice this will look when I put it together here. But we're going to follow the instructions now. It's just about coming up to a boil. I think these are about 10 minutes. Somewhere on here it should tell you how to cook these. About 11 minutes. I would say probably more like 12. I like to cook them slightly al dente because the heating, when it blends in, when you put them in with the slow cooker, the rest ingredients, that'll finish them off. But if you finish them off and then put them in there, they end up expanding and getting kind of swollen and starchy, and I don't want that starchy flavor. So we're going to cook these al dente, which would be about 11 minutes, I would say, which is what the package says, and we're going to go from there. And so this is, like I said, really simple, really easy to make. It's not super expensive, and you know, you're going to have a dish here that's worth cooking. Now, I started this out at high, and once it gets boiling, I'm going to just bump it down just a hair so that it doesn't keep boiling and boil over. I think it's safe to say that we could put these down. It's just about ready to pop here to a boil. And we're going to put these in. And we'll see how she does, huh? We've got a special spoon. You can use any spoon you want, but what's nice about this is the slats in there. You just lift up the noodles, bring it over to the sink, hit it with cold water, and then you can taste it, see how far cooked it is. You know you've got a pretty good gauge if you keep track. It's usually about 10 minutes. And so with that being said, we're gonna take a short pause here, and through the magic of having a pause button and television here, we're gonna let the noodles boil about 10 to 12 minutes. And we're going to bump our control from full high to just a hair under so that it doesn't keep boiling over. And so we'll be back shortly.